These 6 plants grow on their own, multiply at zero cost, and can permanently replace the most expensive commercial feed on the market. And the industry has been hiding them for decades. In 2026, feeding a family became an act of economic resistance. The price of commercial feed has risen 50% in 2 years. Industrial proteins are adulterated, processed grains are nutritionally empty, and every trip to the feed store is a silent defeat for the family budget. But there is something the major feed manufacturers do not want you to know. There are 6 plants, some considered weeds, others forgotten along the edges of rural roads, that contain more protein, more minerals, and more metabolic energy than any 30-pound bag you find at an agricultural supply store. These plants were hidden, not because they are dangerous, but because they are free, because they reproduce on their own, and because any farmer who knows them will never again depend on an industrial supply chain. If you are here, it is because you no longer blindly trust the system. Subscribe now and build with us the manual of real self-sufficiency. Every week, one more layer of your food armor. But first, you need to understand why this was hidden. For centuries, rural communities across Latin America, Africa and Asia fed their animals and their own families with what grew spontaneously around their homes. The concept of commercial feed did not exist because the balance was already in nature itself. What you are about to see contradicts everything you were ever taught. The commercial feed industry was born in the second half of the 20th century with one clear objective: to create dependency. They took ingredients that nature offers for free, processed them, packaged them, and sold them as if they were advanced science. But behind that colorful bag, there is transgenic soy, industrial byproduct meal, and synthetic additives that no living organism recognizes as real food. Natural plant-based protein, on the other hand, comes accompanied by live enzymes, bioavailable minerals and fibers that activate the digestive system completely. It is the difference between nourishing a body and simply filling it. Nature designed a circular nutrition system, where each plant fulfills a specific function in the metabolic chain. Leaves produce protein, roots accumulate minerals, seeds concentrate energy, and stems deliver structural fiber, all in perfect proportion without the need for a laboratory. Now, observe with precision the 6 guardians of your food independence. The first plant is Moringa, the tree of life. Its leaves contain more protein than eggs, more calcium than milk, and more iron than spinach, by dry weight. It grows in any degraded soil, tolerates extreme drought, and can be pruned every 45 days to obtain permanent fresh forage. A single mature tree can feed 50 chickens for weeks. The second plant is chaya, or the tree spinach. Originally from the Yucatan Peninsula, chaya was the protein pillar of Mayan civilization for more than 3,000 years. Its cooked leaves have twice the protein of conventional spinach and an amino acid profile comparable to meat. It grows as a shrub, multiplies by cuttings, and needs no irrigation once established. The third ingredient is the most dangerous one for the industry. It is kudzu, the plant that major soy producers fear. Kudzu is an Asian legume that fixes nitrogen in the soil while producing leaves with up to 30% crude protein. It is invasive by nature, which means that once planted, it never stops growing, never stops producing. Its roots reach 30 feet deep, extracting minerals that no other crop can reach. The industry classified it as a dangerous weed, precisely because it is impossible to control and completely free. The fourth plant is Leucaena, the living protein bank, a forage tree that produces leaves with up to 26% protein, comparable to the protein content of processed soy. Its pods and seeds are edible for poultry, pigs and cattle. It establishes itself in poor soils, fixes atmospheric nitrogen, and in 2 years forms a forage barrier that produces fodder for decades without replanting. The fifth plant is Azolla, the ancient aquatic fern. This small floating plant was the secret of Asian rice paddies for 2,000 years. Azolla lives in symbiosis with a cyanobacterium that fixes nitrogen directly from the air. It doubles its mass every 2 days and contains up to 25% protein by dry weight. It multiplies in any container with water, from a plastic tub to a pond, and can be harvested daily. It is the liquid feed that grows on its own, without soil, without fertilizer, without cost. The sixth plant closes the circle of complete self-sufficiency. It is Tithonia, or Mexican sunflower, a wild composite that grows along roadsides and abandoned land across the Americas. Its leaves contain up to 22% protein and a level of bioavailable phosphorus that surpasses any commercial mineral supplement. Farmers call it the poor man's fertilizer, because its leaves also regenerate exhausted soils when incorporated as green manure. It is food and medicine for the land at the same time. The implementation of this system requires no investment, only observation and methodical action. Step 1. The Wild Resource Map. Before planting anything, walk your property and the edges of the nearest road. Identify if any of these 6 plants already grow spontaneously in your surroundings. In most tropical and subtropical regions, at least 3 of them are already present. You only need to recognize them, not buy them. Step 2. The Multiplication Zone. Designate an area of at least 200 square feet exclusively for multiplying these plants. Not for immediate consumption, but for producing planting material, chia cuttings, leucaena seeds, azolla fragments. This will be your permanent genetic bank, your strategic reserve of independence. Step 3. The Cutting Rotation. Never cut more than 1/3 of each plant in each harvest. Excessive cutting stresses the root system and reduces the protein production of new leaves. Establish a rotation calendar where each plant has its harvest week and its recovery period. Step 4. Integration with the living soil system. These 6 plants are not independent of your garden bed. They are part of the same ecosystem. Leucaena and kudzu roots feed the soil mycorrhiza. Azolla fertilizes irrigation water with live nitrogen, and Tithonia mineralizes the upper soil layer every time you incorporate its leaves as mulch. Attention! Here is the critical mistake that everyone makes: trying to introduce these plants into the animal feeding system abruptly and in large quantities. Animals do not immediately recognize new flavors and may reject the forage if there is no gradual transition. Start with 10% substitution of conventional feed during the first week, 20% in the second, and so on until complete substitution in 30 days. Patience in the transition determines the success of the system. Step 5. The Closed Nutrition Cycle. What the animal does not consume returns to the soil. Leftover leaves are composted. Manure enriches the garden bed, and the garden bed feeds the forage plants. There is no waste in this system, only continuous transformation of energy. It is the circular economy that industry will never be able to replicate in a factory. When you master these 6 plants, you have not only eliminated your feed bill, you have built a living, self-replicating system that improves with every season, that does not depend on supply chains, or international prices, or corporate decisions you will never control. Every moringa leaf you cut, every azolla fragment you harvest, is a concrete act of food sovereignty. It is proof that nature already had the answers. Long before the industry invented the questions, the system was designed to fail without you. Yours was designed to thrive without it. If this knowledge lit something in you today, subscribe, share this video with someone who still depends on the system, and leave a comment below. Which of these 6 plants already grows near your home? Because in our next technical session, we are going further. I will reveal the 2,000-year food system that fed entire families with just 100 square meters of land. A system that entire civilizations used to survive wars, droughts and economic collapse, and that was almost completely erased from modern agronomy books. The manual remains open. The technical resistance advances, and your real independence was taking root.